Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of That's Cool with Joe. And I have a couple of cool things to talk about and maybe teach you a little bit of some neat tricks that you can do. And if you have any ideas, go ahead and send it to me on our Facebook page or through email on wearecentralpa.com. Okay, let's go ahead and let's talk about what the hell happened in Mexico. Yes, I said that. A hailstorm in Mexico. Look at this. There were drifts of 4 to 6 feet of hail that fell in Guadalajara. I think I said it right, or close enough. I apologize. And this hail happened with a huge thunderstorm. All right. The temperature that day reached up to 81 degrees. How can you get ice form with that? Well, when you get a thunderstorm and a strong wind blowing on up, that wind holds water and ice droplets and pushes actually ice droplets really high in the sky, forms balls of ice, and that updraft was continuing and it fell with so much hail that, again, the kids were playing in it like it was snow. And the high temperature was 81 degrees later in the day. You need heat. You need instability to get hailstorms like that. Fortunately, we haven't had one like that. We've had some hail that's covered the ground, but that is going to be ultimately devastating when they finally add up all the dollars of damage that happened with it. And it's all melted and it's gone now, but there's a few cars that have dings in it. All right, the next topic, and this is a topic I teach. There is a feature on Google. Now, I'm going to back up a second before we even show it. Some people are like, oh my goodness, my phone tracks me, get a little nervous. I have no problem with it, maybe because I'm not planning on doing anything bad. Hopefully. And that's the one thing you have to realize. Have you ever used Google Maps or Waze or something to help guide you on a trip? The only way they know what traffic is going like is because of the people using Google Maps and Waze, and their phones report back and the speed and everything like that. So there has to be some two-way interaction for it to work, and I like it. But there's also a feature, if you allow Google to do it, to create what's called a timeline. And it shows you where you've traveled. Now, we just had our railroading to the Canadian Rockies. A couple of weeks ago we left. We started off in Pittsburgh, but let's go ahead and show a Google timeline of the trip that we made on the next image here. It's up there. Oh, Kevin already has it next to me. And you can see we started off, we spent the night in Pittsburgh. We flew, stopped at O'Hare, and went to Calgary in Alberta, Canada. All right, and you can see the trip there. And down the road, I'm going to teach you how you can layer your photographs from your trip so you can move around on Google Earth and show. And you can show exactly where the locations you were, where you took some pictures, as long as you took it with something that has a GPS unit in it, like your phone. All right, so we went to Calgary, and in Calgary there is, and I have to see here the picture. This is okay. We went up to Calgary. Let's go to the skyline picture, which is the next picture. We did 2 stops there, and I'm sorry. Back up a second. Kevin, made a mistake. Kevin's my producer, and it was me who made a mistake. Show the red dots. I first want to show you actually on timelines. I had this, and I forgot all about it. Live show. That happens. But do you see all those red dots? I think this is a neat feature. That is all the places I have been since I first got an Android phone. And you could do that with iPhone too. So the red dots on the other one, and you can see I've been in Europe, I've been down to the Caribbean islands, and then there's the trip that I went to up toward Calgary. Let's go. There's the city line now in Calgary. And that stadium-like thing that you see on the left-hand side of your screen is the Saddle Dome. And why do they call that? That's where the Calgary Flame play. Why do they call it? It looks like a saddle. And even farther to the left is the dome where they have, which is going on right now, the big stampede, the Calgary Stampede, where millions of people come into town to see all rodeo events. It's one of the biggest events in Canada, in Calgary. And it's a really cool event, but so many people come to town that almost everyone who's a resident tries to leave town who doesn't have to do anything with that. So the city line of Calgary, you'll notice that it's really, they said that the new species, their new bird up there was Cranus erectus. Because there's a lot of cranes, the high risers going up. And in between, you see a little tower there. Well, it used to be the highest point in Calgary, and that's a 360. And we actually had a lunch on that 360 tower, and we sat there and it spun around. We made it 1.5 times around while we were eating lunch with the whole group. And let me show you, I think I have a picture of the group also coming on up in our next third photo in our slideshow. Coming on up. Let's keep on going forward. And is that the people right there? Okay, we're getting there. He's loading up the photos, and we had a great group of people that were overlooking there's the group. And I have to say, I had to back up, and that's who I went. Some of the people we went with, not everyone was in that shot outside of Calgary, but we all had lunch on top of that round tower there. And once we were done with lunch, a lot of you know that I have an extreme fear of heights. And you'll see a photo coming where I am standing on a glass platform hundreds of feet up in the sky. And he's going to try to force that photo up a little bit. So we're having some photo difficulties here. But I got to stand, and a lot of people are like, how can you do it? And I am really afraid of heights. Well, what I was doing is I was looking straight down through the glass and through my phone. And for some reason, the fear of heights did not get to me that much when I was doing that. So that was a neat thing that we did, and that is a cool thing that you can do. The restaurant on top of the Calgary Tower is called the 360 restaurant, and then then you can eat at the 360. They have an observation deck, and there we go. Actually, I was red right there. One of the people on the trip also in the photo with me, who were standing on the glass. It's a sideways, but you can see us standing on the glass, and we were able to look straight down, and the taxis below us were absolutely tiny. All right, so that was one of the stops we had in Calgary. And Calgary was a neat, modern city, very clean, about 2.6 million people. So the next place that we went to, and we move on, we started and we boarded up a bus. Oh, actually, I have another photo, and hopefully we can get the next photo. You're going to see of, I believe it's the statues that are coming up next. The statues of some women, and they call them they have this that statue right there. Now, this is kind of cool, and at times a little bit there's always a double talk about everything. So these group of 5 women, and they have statues in several places in Canada for them because they were big. They were the Fabulous 5 who were big, and I only have a picture of 3 of the 5, but there were 5 of them that were big into the move of women's suffrage and having women working in politics, and they worked hard to get women to vote, and they were having tea, and they would have tea and plan out and help get women's rights and showing that women were behind the politics. Now, the interesting side of the story that our tour guide told us, and the statues are actually going to disappear and may have already disappeared in some cities already because they believe society needed to be cleansed. And so they were, I forgot the exact word for it, but if someone didn't have sterilization. That's what they were behind. And if you Google, it wasn't a very nice thing. So they were behind sterilization of if you had a baby that they didn't believe that made standards, they would try to sterilize you and sign forms afterwards to not have another child. So there's a dark side to the Fabulous Five, that they had some great beliefs and then some other beliefs that had a dark side. So there's a lot of controversy in Canada behind there. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the other photos. And I think I have, I believe I put one of my favorite photos of a building up there that I took. And it was my building in a building. And if it's outside photo of a building. No, that's a little bit later on. So let's just actually click them on one at a time. Go into the numbers, Kevin, after the women. And we're going to go through, and he has to open these up manually. So there is there is the tower, and that's one of the reasons why we're out. We went up on the tower, and again, we looked straight down from the glass on the bottom of there. And let's go ahead and go two photos forward here. So, and I'm going to show you some of the things that we saw on the trip. Just two numbers past there. So, oh, okay.
You want the one after the map?
Yes. Okay. Actually, yeah, the map. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back to the map for a second. So, was in the right order. Now, Kevin and I have a good order here. So, we then got on the bus and we traveled from Calgary and we worked our way to Banff, which one of my favorite spots on the entire trip. And we spent 2 nights in Banff. And you're traveling from the foothills of the Rockies. And one way I put Calgary, it's like the Denver, Colorado of Canada. You know, and then you enter into the mountains, and you're in the mountains there in Banff. And let's go ahead and take a look at the next photo and line. And we saw in Banff some beautiful sights. And we got to see, there's a river there, and we got to see, I took an evening walk, and you're going to be able to see some of the photos of the elk I saw. He's on the trip. And, yep. So I'm going to talk about. So we would take a couple of side trips. Oh, and actually, the photo you're going to see right now, first of all, is Bow Falls. Now, Bow Falls is a great site. The Bow River goes through Banff, and that is the Bow Falls. And it was really neat seeing that. And there's some other sites along there. And you actually have the next picture is a photo of myself and my wife enjoying the Bow Falls at the next stop. Should be the next number. Whatever the next number is, I'll talk about. How about that? All right. We also ate lunch at the Fairmont Banff Springs, which was a great hotel that was built long ago. Think about Bedford Springs and just make it grander and larger. The rooms regularly, and this is why we didn't stay there. We stayed at a different hotel. Rooms were $700 a night. They have 700 rooms. You do the math. There's a lot of money that flows through that place. And while we had lunch there, snow actually fell outside, a precursor of another issue on our trip that we'll talk about next week. So let's go ahead and take a look at our next photo. And while we were in Banff, this is the inside of that hotel. We got to see a lot of great sights, both inside and outside. And our next stop is going to be while we were outside. This is what it looks like in downtown Banff, a city with just mountains surrounding it. And it's just a nice city that you can walk around. There was a great pub we stopped. I don't have a picture of it. I do suggest it's called Melissa's. And I got to actually meet Melissa. It was right across the street from our hotel right in downtown Banff. And it's like a small resort area. So when we would take some evening walks, we would run into guys like this. Now you can go up to Elk County and see them. And if you notice, the elk look a little bit different than the elk that here in Pennsylvania. We thought they showed more of a white tail to them, and on our evening walks we got pretty close to them, and that was right along the Bow River behind our hotel. And I have a couple of more photos, I believe, and then we're going to jump of. All right, here's the last photo. Oh, okay. And let's go ahead and jump to some videos. Can we jump to the videos and show you? And got to see some cool things like the elk crossing the river just a little bit down for us. And that was really cool. And there was a train. Now originally the train moved and the elk moved back a little bit, and then we had the elk move a little bit closer on in to the train tracks. There's the next video, and that is them grazing right near us, and they were actually pretty used to people. I've been around the elk in Elk County enough to know that you don't mess around with them. But you notice there's one male who was starting to get his horns there, and a fair amount of females along in that pack. So that was really cool that we got to see them. And then on our last video I'm going to show you on our bus ride out of Banff, look at that. Yes, we saw 3 different times bears. This guy cut right in front of our bus. That was a quick video I got from inside the bus. And we were traveling that day on the summer solstice. What happened on the summer solstice? That whole thing I'm going to talk about next week on That's Cool. We're going to do more on my timeline of where we went, and we'll even get in. And I promise we're going to get better with pictures. I have a couple of other cool things I'm going to talk about next week, but I'm going to continue on with my trip of what happened to us on the summer solstice. If you didn't follow my Facebook page, you may not know, but it was interesting and something you would not believe would happen on what is known as the longest day of the year. So we're going to continue on with my trip. I'm going to talk a little bit more about timeline and some other options next week on That's Cool. I do have some gadgets that I am also working on to review for you coming up on Wednesdays in the future. So thank you for tuning on in, and we are going to continue to get better and better. If you have any ideas, contact us through Facebook page, and also you can send me an email at murgo@wtajtv.com if you think that there's something cool you want me to talk about next week. Also, before we get to the trip, how about a Category 4 hurricane and a solar eclipse all in one video shot? We got it from space. We'll talk to you next week.